Wow. Okay. I am so excited this week to be able to have the opportunity to have that visual ability in GPT-4. We've all been waiting for it, and it just dropped yesterday, at least in my GPT account. And I have to say, it is amazing. But also to have the opportunity to be able to go back and make comparisons with Bard, because I think it was back in July when Bard became multimodal, as they call it, and had the ability to upload images and visually analyze them. Of course, I jumped on it right away when it first came out in July. Those results in July were underwhelming. Now, one of the interesting things that really made me decide that this was something I could not be using at the time was Bard not letting me upload, well, it would let me upload it, but it would give me a message saying, sorry, I can't help with images of people yet, and it would remove the image. However, the first image that I used and tried with Bard, it had a woman's head and shoulders prominently on the upper half of the image, which was kind of curious. But here's the interesting part. I did some testing, and it seemed like if it was just a woman's head and shoulders, like this image, that it was fine. But as soon as you got anything from the waist up, I'm guessing that the guide rails that they have for protecting their product from being used by any kind of abuse, any kind of not safe for work content, it wouldn't let me analyze this image, even totally innocuous business images, if it had a body from the waist up. So that's my findings. I'm not sure what the algorithm was at the time. I just checked, trying to upload the same image to Bard that it had choked on back in July, and that is still the case. So I didn't continue with this line of experimentation until this week, when ChatGPT gained its ability to actually be visually analyzing data. Now, GPT-4 had no issue with this. And as you can see here, ChatGPT, you need the Plus account to get the visual function. You'll see the advanced data analysis. The beta there. When you've got it turned on, it will give you the ability to attach a file. And you just click here, and you can upload an image file. So I thought, let's just redo the experiment that I did back in July. So yesterday, I chose to replicate that experiment. I took the initial image that I had uploaded to Bard back in July as my first Bard analysis with visuals. So to be fair, I used the same thing here. So this prompt, please give me an analysis of this image with respect to, this basically is what I had said for the initial one back in July when I tested Bard. And so that's what I put again here. I was looking for, give me some feedback on the visuals, a psychological appeal to have the target audience implied by the title. I was also testing to see if it could accurately infer the audience. Now, I generally use detailed prompts to achieve audience analysis for projects, but I just wanted to see if that was a step that I could skip here and still have it understand. So having a guess who the audience was, it took that image and ran with it. So this is the info that I got back, and I was pretty impressed by ChatGPT. What stood out to me immediately here in this line, blue is commonly associated with business, it's calm. In fact, the image wasn't what I would call blue. Now, I know there's a debate on where the line is between the group of green and blue, but it was definitely a turquoise kind of color. There also wasn't very much white on it. So I was a little bit doubtful when I first saw this, but I kept going. The font choice, okay, stands out, crucial for an ebook cover. So ChatGPT immediately knew that this was an ebook cover without having been in the prompt. It probably picked that out from the file name. Now, I'm not going to get into every bit of this, but I really like that it broke it down into visual appeal, psychological appeal, message, conveyance, representation of business brand. These were the things that I had asked for. Now, what was interesting here was it seemed to be telling me that it could not read the text on the image, so I had to ask it to. That's because I was exploring the limitations of this. This is the first time I'm using it. Yesterday, it was brand new. So I said to confirm, and well, that's how I usually interact with ChatGPT. I ask it what its limitations are, and actually every other chatbot that I work with as well. So I said to confirm, you cannot read words. And the interesting thing is it actually apologized. The image is indeed clear enough for me to analyze, and it went back and it did analyze. Gave me some recommendations on the title. I won't get into that too much, but nice that it's evaluating both the image and the text criteria that I gave it. What I would like to do now is actually compare ChatGPT experience versus Bard. So to make this a semi-valid kind of experiment study, I put in the exact same prompt into Bard and uploaded the same image. Now, as I've said, this image is semi-obscure as to not disclose the client information. But in Bard, I get 3 options as results, as it tends to do, which can be particularly nice when you're looking for some text or copy output. This can be really nice to immediately see the different versions of possibilities. You can regenerate drafts, much like in ChatGPT, but this one gives you 3 right out of the gate. I have to say I was a little bit biased. I wasn't that thrilled with Bard back when I used it for this purpose in July, but I looked at it. The first draft with the visual and psychological appeal, great, similar to ChatGPT. Simple but effective design, it says. The black background. Now, that blew my mind. This image does not have a black background. It's not actually seeing and interpreting the image accurately, which that is kind of a surprise to me. But on the upside, it was able to immediately read the text. I did not need to prompt it for that. But what was really interesting is that saying that the current image uses a static image of a book, which there is no book on this cover. It's a human being. And it's suggesting that I should use a more dynamic image, such as a video or a GIF, someone using LinkedIn. It's suggesting I use a human element to make it more dynamic. Well, the top half of the image is a human. So it thought it was a black background. And it did not see that there was a human in it. It did not understand the function of this image that was an ebook cover, but GPT was able to glean that. And when I go back and look over other drafts, the second one says that the colors are bright and eye-catching. So the very same analysis gave me 2 very different outputs on what was the same thing it was looking at. For the second one, as much as they have a very different idea of what the image is about, when it comes to ways to improve, it gave me a few suggestions, actually. Not a whole lot of detail, that I should use a human face. Well, there is a person on it, but I guess I couldn't see that again. Okay, now the overall information it gives me here is not something that's really actionable. Okay, so let's go on to the third Bard draft. This one sees that it's visually appealing. It immediately sees the title. The background is a light blue color. It seems like ChatGPT and Bard, the best that they can do when they accurately recognize its color is to call it light blue. And the interesting thing on this one is that the image also features a variety of icons like the LinkedIn logo and a light bulb, which is a total hallucination. There is no light bulb. There is no LinkedIn logo on this image. So it's saying it's visually appealing or relevant, having made up what's exactly on the image. Now, most of the commentary that's made here about the value of it, the psychological impact, is really leaning on the words that it was able to read, not so much on the image. So it's not parsing the image as much as referencing the text. Now, the improvements are more functional. It didn't really realize that this was a book cover, saying put a button on it or improve it by making it interactive. That's not super helpful. So that's all I got from Bard. So when I compare the two, the information that I get from ChatGPT was a lot more accurate. It was not hallucinating. I did have to dig in and ask it to read the content on the image. I did that, and it gave me a summation of it. And then it talked about the visual hierarchy, a very important graphic design consideration, the highlighting whether or not certain things should have been on it. That was fine. Great feedback. This little experiment in comparison did not even begin to plumb the depths of either tool, ChatGPT or Bard. But the unnerving inconsistencies and lesser quality results from Bard were what I needed to decide which tool to trust and put my efforts into in the future. Now, of course, I will keep testing each tool as they come out, as they improve, as they gain different functionality, and be running these mini experiment studies. But for now, like I said, I'm still in Camp GPT.